Hi, and welcome back to Scale with Joy. I am here with someone I've known for a long time, and I'm so joyful that she is going to have the opportunity to share her wisdom with you today. Her name is Lara Casey Isaacson. When I met her for the first time, it was without the Isaacson at the end, so that's
Yes.
so fun to see you on your Zoom at the end. I did the same thing after about 10 years. I was like, I should probably take his name. Like that.
Yeah, it took me a little while, but I got there.
Yeah, yes. It was such a beautiful, like the way that you told that story was also so beautiful. So maybe we'll get to that. But first, I would love for you, if you wouldn't mind, just to introduce yourself and tell the viewers a little bit about who you are.
Yes. Hi. Well, I'm so grateful to be here. And like you said, Laura, this is more of a delight for me personally, just to get to spend time with you. We've known each other for a long time, and so much has happened in that decade. It's just been crazy. But I am a mom of 3 kids. I work mostly here in my home office. We do have an office, but I run a business called Cultivate What Matters, and we help women to do just that, to cultivate what matters in their lives and set goals that last. I'm also the author of 2 books. I'm working on another one right now. And most of all, I'm just really passionate about not wasting my days and helping other women to do the same.
Yes. You are so gifted at it. And
that's very kind. All trial and error.
For us all, right? And it's so funny because I've actually gifted power sheets to several people, even a leader on the summit several years ago. I was like, you have to try these. They're so helpful. Like I use it as the thought download, it's just getting people out. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today and your process for that. So just like, if you wouldn't mind starting out and sharing a few ways that maybe you mentioned that it was all trial and error, kind of how you learned this idea of your passion for goal setting the hard way.
Yes. I do not like goal setting. I still feel that way. And I'm the CEO of a pretty big goal setting company, but it's because there's so much pressure. There's so much unrealistic expectations and so many things that I remember growing up as a girl and thinking, ugh, goal setting. No. I mean, I want to achieve things. I want to achieve my dreams and live out all these great things, but I really don't like failure. I really don't like feeling when I have to pursue perfection, and that if I mess up just once, that I will be a failure. And so I really felt like traditional goal setting told me those things over and over. And that over and over telling of that untrue goal setting story led me to a lot of challenges in my life of dealing with even a battle with anorexia in college, just trying to chase something that I would really never catch, of perfection in my personal life. And that led me to chasing perfection in my business many years later, almost 20 years later, trying to chase more money, more followers, more. Until, of course, I'm sure all of you have experienced this at some point in your lives, you crash and you burn. And for those of us that are extra stubborn like me, that takes a few crashes and burns along the way. So I sat down at my desk one day and I thought, I wish I could have made progress on the things that really mattered to me. And I looked back at the year I had just lived, and I thought I could have done it if I would have just remembered my goals to begin with.
Yeah.
And then tended to my goals little by little. I was like, wow, if I just would have remembered this, if I could have just done it even maybe 4 times throughout the year, and I would have made progress. And so a light bulb went off for me. And I wrote down all the things that were important to me at that time. So this is right around the time that I had just had Grace, my first child, almost 8 years ago. And I wrote down everything on that list, from my marriage to my business at the time. I'm the editor-in-chief of Southern Weddings at the time. And so many things going on. Everything from marriage, business, being a mother, to my Facebook page. I'm pretty sure we only had Facebook back then.
Yeah.
There were no paid Facebook ads back then.
Or if you knew how to do them, you were like killing it.
Yeah,
you were the only one.
You were really making some cash. But I wrote all of those things down, and that became what I called my tending list. It's just a list of things that I wanted to tend to grow in my life. And I kind of stuck it there on my desk. And that little worksheet I made for myself grew to several more worksheets, because I thought, well, how do you know what to put on this list? How do I know how to order these things on this list and know what's most important to spend my time on? And lo and behold, that led to me creating the first set of power sheets, worksheets that I really wanted to dig into powerful goals. And the way I define that at the time is the way I still define it. When you turn off a light switch, there's no light in the room. There's no way to know your direction. Turn on the light switch, you have a way to know what's clearly in front of you. And that's what power sheets help you do. So that spiraled into creating the Power Sheets Goal Planner, which is very unlike traditional goal setting. We start with, number one, the big picture question of where do you want to be when you're 80 years old or 90 or 100? And that is a question I ask myself every single day.
Do you really?
I do, every day. And especially in the times when, like, I know you and I have felt this before, and anyone watching, that I felt totally spread thin.
Yeah.
And I think I don't even know how to crawl out of this hole. And I've been there recently, and I had to stop and say, all right, where do I want to be when I'm 80? What will matter to me then? And what won't matter to me then? And it helps me to really order my steps right and say, okay, well, if that's what's going to matter to me then, why am I not acting like it today? What am I spending my time on today? So that is the, believe it or not, the short version of that answer of how I went from not loving goal setting to now knowing a true way to do it, which is starting with the really big picture in mind.
So what you just said was like what I would call like a blip, right? Like you have these when you're growing and you're scaling and you're like an entrepreneur and like you're doing all the things. And many people who are watching this have an existing business and they're probably a little bit in the weeds, like they've lost sight, right? And what you just said to me was it was like so subtle, but I think it was so important, which is like you had a moment recently, right? And some people might think, and I remember you writing about a really probably expanded version of that when your kids were little.
Yes.
Especially when Joshua was
yeah.
right? Yep. And how do you move through that quicker now than maybe you did a few years ago?
Yes. Well, I think that for me, I mean, the logistical answer to that is there's just more, this sounds strange, there's more important things on my plate now. Now I have 3 children as opposed to having 1 child back then. And now I have clearer boundaries on where my time has to be used. Like without fail, I am always going to drop at a hat to go and do whatever my kids need. And so that is a healthy boundary for me to say, I can't go and do 25 speaking engagements here. And I just don't do speaking anymore for that reason.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't. And so I've had to, the way I get through it is one, by establishing those time boundaries to begin with, knowing my capacity. And in the times when I feel like I'm stretched beyond my capacity, I've got to say no. And I've always joked that if I ever write another chapter book, it would be called No. All the things I've said no to. And I think really learning how to say no, how to say a gracious no, and knowing that saying no to one thing is saying yes to something better helps me to say no a lot easier. So that's really the big thing, especially in those times where I feel like, okay, I'm here again. Yeah. How do I get through this quicker? I know more clearly what matters to me. I know more clearly what lasts at this point. And I'm sure I will know more and more as time goes on, Lord willing. But I really know what's going to last and what's not. And so it's a little easier for me to say, sorry, project I committed to. I'm actually going to have to say no to that. And my humility is going to have to play a big part in this. And my pride's going to get hurt. And I'm going to have to disappoint someone. But I know what matters. I know what I'm saying yes to.
Yeah, and then something else might come up like this, where you can reach a lot of people and do it from
home. I'm so glad.
And so sometimes those opportunities only open up
very helpful
when you have great space for it, right?
Yes.
And so I love what you're saying, because a lot of times you get into programs, right? And I think a lot of people who are watching are probably signed up for programs, because once you get to a certain level, you're like, I should probably be in a program. And that program might be saying, you know what, if you really want to get to the next level, you got to get on stages.
Yeah, true.
To that next level, you've really got to do this or do that. And I love what you're saying, which is like, you also just make your own rules.
You do. Yeah. I mean, I think traditional paths would tell me there's a lot of things I should be doing right now or could be doing right now, but no. I know what's important to me, and I know that sure, I could scale my business a whole lot more by now, but I'm intentionally choosing not to because of the life that I feel like the Lord wants me to live and the impact he wants me to have on my family. So, yeah.
Yes. I just heard a huge sigh of relief as like a bunch of people just got permission.
Yes.
Like I feel like you just gave them permission.
Well, and it's not easy. I'll say that because it's really easy to look at what everybody else is doing. And I do it. I get caught up in it. And I think, oh, I should have done this by now or this by now. And then I think, here's what I do. Really, what I do is I sit whenever I feel comparison pop in or I feel like I should be doing something. I think to myself, what if I was doing that right now? Like, I just imagine myself. I remember this a few years ago. I had just finished my second book, and then they said, okay, well, you should do another one at least 18 months after that. And I had friends doing that too. And I thought, what if I was writing a book right now? That would be horrible. It would be awful. I have no time for that right now. I would be so stressed out. And that always clicks me back to reality to make me grateful for where I am.
I love that exercise. It's so intuitive because then you sort of imagine it and then you intentionally just say, no, thank you.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so interesting. Yeah.
Like, put yourself there because you think you want those things. You think you want to like really grow this part of your business, or you think you want to be at that level by now. But what if you were? And what is that going to call you to do at this point? I like the gradual movement rather than skipping ahead to some things.
It's so funny. So like if I consult sometimes for national brands, and what I'll sometimes do is have them create a whole idea of something that I know they probably aren't going to do just so they could say no to it, you know?
Yes, and there's value in that. Absolutely.
Leave it being like, we intentionally said we were not going to take that position in the market or whatever, right? But I love that you're doing that with like life. Just so awesome.
Well, trying to. I mess up sometimes.
Yeah. But I think because you've been so intentional about developing yourself in this area, it adds so much value to people who are listening who haven't thought of it before in that way. And probably giving them permission. I do think, a couple other speakers on this summit have said, like, people always said, well, when you get to 7 figures, you have to do this, or you get to this point, you have to do this. And then they did it and they realized, like, oh, wow, you almost have to listen to yourself more, as you grow that business.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I want to also talk about your team, because this is something I'm so interested in personally, because I think managing a team as you scale is like one of the trickiest parts of all of this.
Yes.
And you, every now and then I see it behind the scenes on your Instagram or your story, and I'm like, gosh, like, look at her go. Like, she's doing you're doing all these like cool things of getting your team aligned. So would you speak into that for a little bit for people who just don't know where to start with that?
Yes, I will. And I will say that the answer I'm going to give you is going to frustrate you because I wish there was a one size fits all, here's what you need to do answer to this, but it's almost like giving a one size fits all answer to parenting. Managing people and leading people has so many nuances in it. It's like trying to teach someone how to be a great person. There's a million ways you could do it. And so I'll just tell you what I have done. And obviously, like, I don't do it perfectly, but God has really blessed us with an amazing team. Yeah. I was just saying yesterday to a group of business leaders how grateful I am to even be a part of this. But I think some cornerstones apply to not just our business, but to other businesses, and they found success there. We use the traction model. So for the last over 2 years now, we have followed the book Traction. And that is the entrepreneurial operating system. And if you give that book a good read, it's going to totally overwhelm you. But then there's this one sentence in there that says, it takes 2 years for you to actually implement this. And we laughed at that. We were like, oh, you don't know us. We're going to implement this in like 3 weeks.
We're goals girls.
Yeah, no. And then the 2-year mark came around and we were like, oh, it's all starting to click now.
Yes, yeah.
So I'll say that good things grow over time. If you choose to go the traction model, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's taken us a long time and a lot of intention to implement. And what it is basically an operating system. Like, how do you communicate with each other as a team? How do you hold each other accountable? How do you cast vision? How do you get goals done? And of course, we're all about that. So it's a really great, healthy framework for that. In the traction model, and something that I think applies to multiple different models for business, we really do take our core values seriously. And core values is one of those buzz terms that just gets thrown around. Yeah. We do it the traction way, which is not just creating them out of thin air and they sound good and they look good on a wall. But we identify what's the secret sauce in our business. What are things that we've done that have set us apart? in the market, in our culture. And we've identified things that are already there that we want to amplify more. Like, what is it? What is that little magic something that it takes to work at Cultivate or Southern Weddings? And I think in defining those things, we've now been able to hire by those, to fire by those, to hold people accountable by those, and to call out excellence by those core values too. So our core values are anything from the power of one, that would be one-to-one relationships being just as important, if not more important, than marketing to the masses. Enthusiasm is a big one. And I think that if you looked at our brand, I hope that I wouldn't even have to say those to you. We don't have to say our core value is entrepreneurial spirit. We hope it just plays out in the way we do things. So that's one thing as far as our team goes. We really do hire team members that can be a part of that magic and those core values. The other thing is we really hold each other accountable. So that comes through the ability to be a great communicator. Another thing that I don't even highly recommend it, I say it's a necessity, is you've got to go to Crucial Conversations training. It is how to have conversations and get things done when the stakes are high. And in any business, whether you're a sole entrepreneur or you've got a team of 5 or 20, there's also a book called Crucial Conversations, but we've sent all of our team members to that. It's a 2-day training.
Wow.
And it is awesome because you really do have to learn how to embrace healthy conflict. And I feel like that's when very good things have come to us, when we've been able to embrace healthy conflict, hold each other accountable in a clear way. And I think people are usually surprised, like our brand on the outside, it's very much what it is on the inside, but you guys don't get to see that we run like a large corporation behind the scenes. And we're like serious business women. But it's because we don't make up our systems. We try to use these tried and true principles and systems. And then the other thing is we pray a lot together. And I think that's probably the most important thing. Our leadership team, on Mondays, we start our weeks laying out all the issues for the week, whether it's personal issues or business issues, things we're facing just in our team or our operations. And we pray over those things. And I can't negate the power of that in our business too.
Wow. Was that a switch in the most recent years? Like moving to Cultivate and okay.
Yeah, very much so.
I didn't think you had that. I knew, obviously I always knew you were faith-based, but I didn't know it was such a integrated part of your company until now. So that was
about 2 years now. I've been a part of a group, like a mentorship group for Christian CEOs. And I've been a part of that group for 2 years now. And that's really helped me to understand business as ministry.
Yes.
And to kind of get my unofficial MBA at the same time. But it's been really amazing to study various companies, Chick-fil-A, various other companies that really do business as ministry.
Yes.
So we're not like an outward facing ministry. You're not going to see us posting Bible verses on Instagram. But the way we operate, we hope, reflects the light of Christ. And that's the way we operate internally too.
So cool. There's so much good stuff in there. I was like, up while you were talking, and I've done EOS facilitation and I ran my own company that way too.
Yes.
So I want to know if you made the same mistake that I did the first time I did it. Were you way too optimistic about what you could do in a quarter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That took us like a year.
It takes a long time, but that's really the way it is for anything, because the alternative to not having an operating system, which sounds like intimidating, perhaps it did to me. The alternative is kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and that's no fun. So we really needed it.
Yes. So when that happened to us so many times in a row until we realized, like, to do things really, really, really well and to have focus and to also make room for all the little things that are already on your plate and like answering all the emails and like getting back to all the people and doing all the things, like you can actually only choose a few.
Yes, it's true.
Really only choose a few.
Yeah, it's true.
It's awesome. Such good components. So is there any goal setting as part of this process and with EOS? And I had mentioned EOS very quickly, like it's like a buzzword, but Traction is the book to get started with. And they do have worksheets on their website that are, I find, extremely helpful. But is there any time where it's not collaborative, where you're just like, this is what we're doing?
Oh, you mean in leadership?
Yeah.
I'd say no. So I am in our, we have what we call an accountability chart, which is different than an organizational chart that you might see in corporate America. Accountability chart is what it sounds like. It is who holds who accountable for winning in their role. And so in our accountability chart, I am the visionary. So I sit at the top. There's no hierarchy here, though, really, as far as like, yes, if push came to shove and I had to make the final call on something, yes, I would. But the culture that we've created is where everybody is equal and we're all holding each other accountable. So I'd say maybe with financial decisions, but that does fall into my role anyway. But truly, no, like I think I'm saying this because I also have a deep humility in knowing that my answer is not always the best one. And I want to be pushed on. I want to, and I feel like that's what great leaders do. I wouldn't consider myself a great leader, but I'm a great leader in training. I think that's what you have to have, is the ability to let even the person who just came into their role a week ago, who just got out of college, to speak into what that big decision is that you're trying to make. That's been very fruitful for us. You'd be surprised when you start asking questions of people who you think maybe have no experience on paper, how their perception really does help a lot. So I think the answer is probably no. I don't think that there are times when I say, okay, this is what we're doing. I think that creates a little bit of a dictatorship atmosphere, and I've done it before and it has not been well received in years past, so I think I've just learned from my mistakes.
Same. Yeah, you do get, and if you're sitting there being like, yes, I have gotten that feedback before and I've gotten a little defensive, or they don't understand that I'm in charge, or you've ever had those moments, like it's so normal. It's so normal to feel that way, that it's your business, it's your heart, like you're going to feel that way.
Yep.
But this gets into the next question I want to ask you is, what has this done for your life?
That is a great question. It makes me think of times that there have been high stakes decisions on our plates. And it really does give me so much peace of mind and freedom. So for me personally, running our business this way helps to take the pressure off, because we really do operate as a team. It doesn't mean that there are 20 cooks in the kitchen for every decision, but it means that my goal as the visionary of the company is to make sure that everyone shares the vision for every decision that's made. And our kind of unofficial office motto is that if you're not excited about it, nobody's going to be excited about it. So if I step in and I say, here's what we're doing, but no one else is on board with that, we're not going to get to that destination. So I think for me personally, it's just given me a lot of peace of mind. I mean, I truly feel so ridiculously grateful to work alongside these women every day and just to get to share our days together.
Yes.
We also know that as a brand called Cultivate What Matters, if we're not cultivating what matters together, there's not really a way for us to give that and teach that to each other. So we have to fight a lot to avoid burnout. And it's not to say we don't get there. We do. To avoid burnout, to make sure our personal lives come first, make sure that we are asking each other how the other person is doing, and getting all this stuff done from that heart. So I think it's just given me a lot of peace.
Yes, the peace, and then one of the first words you said was freedom.
Yeah, freedom, absolutely. Yes. And freedom to also, I just feel like part of my spiritual calling in this business is to train leaders and to grow leaders, not just for this business, but for God's kingdom. And so when I'm focused on that, it gives me so much freedom to know, like, there's a much bigger picture here, and I don't have to do it by myself. And it's okay to, dig into hard things and disciple women or whomever's on our team, because this business is not really the end all be all.
And what would you say to somebody who is like, Lara, I'm running a business here. I don't have time to set up all these structures and read these books and I'm managing all the things. Like, what was the point in which you were like, I got to make time for it?
Yeah. I can think of multiple times. That's why I'm kind of laughing. And again, it took us a good 2 years to get here, and we still say, okay, wait, what does traction say? Let's go look at the book again. And another author I'll throw out there is Patrick Lencioni. We love Patrick Lencioni's teaching. I can't recommend all of his books enough. We also use Right Now Media, and they have some great video training. So just want to throw all those resources out there. But what I would say is do what you can. Sometimes you truly just have to stay above water. But make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right teaching. I cannot stress this enough.
Ooh.
Instagram is not the right teaching. Even somebody else's course is not the right teaching. Look to businesses that are outside of your realm of work, and surround yourself with truly great leaders. And great leaders aren't just about the bottom line. They're about the profit of people. And that's what we're about. Like, we need to make sure that we're changing lives and not just changing the numbers that are in our KPIs. So, yeah, I could go on and on about that, but I feel like the most important thing is to do what you can with what you have. Little by little progress truly does add up, whether it means that you're listening to the Traction audiobook and it takes you a year to get through it. It took us 6 months to get through it as a team. Or it's just, I'm going to decide not to, look at Instagram and instead go stick my nose in a business book. And for me, it was joining my CEO's group, just being around those leaders. They are not in any type of digital marketing business at all. It like runs the gamut of various types of companies that they have, but being in a group of people and hearing how they solve problems from a gospel mindset is really helpful.
Because you're in C12, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and I'm super curious about this because I've done all the Vistage and the EO and everything. Yeah. What made you decide to choose that?
Well, actually a personal connection. So Will Ray, Nancy Ray's husband, Nancy Ray's photographer, he is the leader of our group, and he's like elbowed me a little bit, say, hey, I think you'd be really good in this group. You need to join this group. And I'm really glad I did.
And it's nice because it's probably local to you versus going to a mastermind that's travel and all of that. But I'm sure it's the faith-based centering.
Yeah. Really tried and true teaching too. It's been phenomenal.
That's so awesome. So you have something that you really want to share with our viewers, and I am so excited and grateful that you are able to share this and you're willing to share this, because I have to tell you, like, I have learned so much just from reading your books, watching you. Every now and then we, connect, and using Power Sheets and buying it for other people, that I know that this is going to bless our viewers in the same way it's blessed me.
That is so exciting. Yes.
Yeah, so it's right underneath this video. Please, please, please make sure you check it out. Use it, engage with it, be with it, and take notes from today's video. You can watch it many, many times if you'd like. And I am so just grateful, Lara, that you're here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. I hope it encourages you all.
All right. Thank you.